I personally believe we are not, far from a time when you would have a single person unicorn that, single person companies being able to scale up to 100 million in revenues. Tools like Bubble, like Canva have really brought down the barriers for entry. If you're not tapping into these, you are leaving a lot of value on the table.
Welcome to the New Build podcast, presented by Bubble, where every other week we explore how the playbook for entrepreneurship is changing thanks to evolutions in AI, software, and culture. My name is Abhinav Narayan. I'm a video producer at Bubble, and for today's episode, I spoke with Vi Singh, who co-founded Turing, an education streaming platform with shows for everyday people interested in complex science and technology concepts. What's especially cool about their story is at the time that we recorded, they had already built an audience of over 40,000 subscribers in less than a year using YouTube. Now, less than a month later, they are nearing 55,000. I spoke with Vi to learn more about how they leveraged channels like YouTube to grow their own platform's user base, as well as the tools he used to build his business, all while working full-time and raising his newborn daughter. Let's dive into my conversation with Vi.
Thanks, Abhinav, for having me. So my name is Vi. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of the Turing app. Turing is a science and entertainment app. We produce the audio shows which are bite-sized, easy to digest, and touch upon a huge spectrum of topics, everything from fundamental sciences to technology.
We talked a little bit before we started recording about what the premise of this show is. People like you are at the heart of this transformation in entrepreneurship. And I think one question that I'm always curious about when speaking to someone in your shoes, was it always your plan to do something like this, to do something on your own, or was any part of this a surprise?
I had always been fascinated by the idea of starting something of my own, but I didn't have an idea of when would be the right time. So I did wait, I feel, a bit too long to get into it. I worked in a corporate role for about 12 years before I took a plunge into entrepreneurship, but I'm glad that I did not.
You are still doing this on the side, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about what it's been like overall to dive into entrepreneurship while also maintaining your career and everything?
So as someone who talks to a lot of entrepreneurs, I think it may not be entirely surprising to you that entrepreneurship is scary. There's so much that you're putting on stake. This was the reason I hesitated for a while to start. But the initial vision was to build something that I can be proud of. And I felt what I did in my previous roles was developing the skill set to be able to take that plunge. The catalyst for me to finally make that jump was, in fact, the birth of my daughter, because that was a time that triggered the evaluation of priorities for me. I felt that the priorities are going to keep multiplying. It was going to be now or never, I felt. And that's when I decided to, take the plunge.
So when you take the plunge, you know that you want to build something that you're proud of. At what point did it become a science education platform?
Yeah, it was born out of pure interest. When I went on that parental leave, I was taking a lot of long walks with my daughter. And at that time, as a person who loves to learn, I was listening to just a lot of science-related podcasts and such. And that's when I felt the gap that what I was looking for was simply not there. It was either too advanced for someone at my knowledge base, or it was something which was overly dumbed down, and then it lost kind of the fascination that learning about the frontier edges of science brings you. So this is where the idea was born, to start something in between, which is not purely academic. It's meant for people who just love to learn something new. The idea was to make it simple enough without dumbing it down. We explain it in everyday language so anyone can follow it.
Where did the name Turing come from? I have an idea of where it comes, but
yes.
I'd be curious to hear the story.
So it is indeed a tribute to the famous scientist Alan Turing. As someone who studied computer science, he kind of became an inspiration quite early on. He's the man who
invented the computer, right?
Exactly. So he's the inventor of theoretical aspects of computer science. He created the concept of Turing machine. He made several breakthroughs during the World War II, which played a pivotal role in the war. But at the same time, he's also one of the most underappreciated scientists. He did not get the credit that he should have deserved during the time when he was alive. So this is essentially yes, a note to him.
What's your background? Did you ever look into making science a career before this, or has it always just kind of been a hobby and interest on the side?
It was a very strong passion during my high school, my university days. And I did my schooling with a focus on engineering and computer science. And at that time, I got pulled into finance, more from a job security and just the what you can call kind of a golden handcuffs point of view. It was a safe career, stable career that promised a life of certainty, and someone who comes from a family which didn't have a lot growing up, that felt more valuable than taking a big risk.
Sure.
When I felt that I could trade some of the job security and everything that my previous roles were bringing me, the joy of pursuing your passion, I decided to make the switch. So I made two big decisions in the last year. One, that I would pursue this interest. And secondly, I used to be a strategy consultant working with Fortune 500 companies with a focus on mergers and acquisitions. It was a very interesting work, but it gets monotonous eventually. So now I'm the head of strategy at one of Europe's biggest space services firms.
Very cool.
And it's really the flexibility of tools like Bubble that makes it possible for me to balance both. And yeah.
That's awesome. That's exactly what we love to hear. When you decide to take this plunge, I'm curious, at what point does YouTube enter the equation? Because one of the reasons that we first heard about you is you've been posting videos on YouTube for almost a year now, or a little over a year.
A little less than a year, and
a little less than a year. And in that time, you have accrued, I think, over 45,000 subscribers. And my understanding is that you're also, talking about your app and the business. And so they're interconnected. Did starting a YouTube channel come first, or did the overall business vision come first and then YouTube kind of became a tool to help build that?
Yeah. So it was the vision that came first. When I was starting up, one of the first things I did was have conversations with people who have done this before me. And one of the great advice I got is that you need to identify what's the core that you're selling and don't focus on distribution at that time. And for me, that core was the science entertainment content that we produce. For us, if the core content is great, it would fly on any platform. And YouTube was a platform where it's very easy to test content and get that initial feedback. While we used Bubble to develop our native mobile app, at the same time, we realized that getting that app in hands of people takes time. But YouTube is very quick and it generates instant feedback. So in parallel to exploring other distribution channels, we launched on YouTube, and that was one which grew very quick, very fast, which gave us a lot of confidence that what we are trying to produce, there is a demand and there is an appetite for it.
You mentioned that you have a background in computer science, finance, strategy. Had you ever made video content before? What was it like?
Never.
So what was it like making and launching those first few videos?
I had never done, video or any kind of content creation for that matter. I consider myself really at the starting point when it comes to producing any kind of media. Even in engineering, I had terrible skills when it comes to anything related to art. So I'm not an artist. As an entrepreneur, when you start doing something, you have to put up many hats. And one of the hats that, yes, I had to put on was to create content. And the way I did it is with the help of some of the easy to use tools like Canva. If you look at some of our initial content, you will see that we have come a long way from it. But I was fine with it because for me, again, the core of what we were trying to do was the explanation, was the audio behind it. Video was a means to make it easy to digest it. I mean, high school students can make it better than me, but we were fine to live with that.
What was the learning process like as you started putting videos out there? Is there feedback that's coming in, or is there a lack of feedback and you need to start hunting and doing research to see what are the levers we need to improve our videos?
This was an eye-opening experience when we first starting putting it out there, and we got it really like helped us shift our thinking. So when we started, we were trying to explain concepts, but we were still quite technical. And some of the initial feedback that we got was how we can simplify it even further. So based on that initial feedback, we reduced the length of each of the shows that we were producing. We made it even simpler to follow on. We made it easier for people to discover from YouTube being the channel through which we put ourselves out there. But then we funnel the users who are interested in back to our platform. We improved that over a period of time. So it was a great decision to, in my mind, and I would recommend that to anyone that is trying to build a business out there, is to put it in hands of real users and just listen. What are they telling you?
Were you putting out a video a week, 3 videos at a time? What was kind of the initial cadence? Because I'm also just trying to think, if you're new to video creation, but you want to get it out in front of users, I wonder what the math is on that balance between, let's put as much time and effort as possible into getting one video out there or multiple videos out there, because the more videos that you put out there, the more that you'll learn, but that's also more time that's being taken away from, consolidating that feedback, working on the app that you are doing simultaneously. What are the numbers that you're looking at there?
We started with putting out one video per week. And the reason is we could have done more, but the quality of what you're producing suffers. And secondly, you also need to give YouTube time to test out your video and push if it resonates with audience. We're very flexible in how frequently we post. And if something does well, maybe you're fine to pause and then let it run its course before we go on. And use that time to focus on other parts of building the business, things like exploring other channels and just talking to the customers. So, I wouldn't advise, I know there are creators much bigger than us, much more successful than us, who already plan their content a year in advance. It could work out for them, but at least in my opinion, when you are a small team and trying to build a business, which I think in the age of AI, you can very much do, the flexibility is the key. You need to read the signs and react to it.
When did you feel like you had caught on to something? When did the momentum start to actually feel real and tangible?
So one of the first topics that we started with was something called the theory of special relativity in physics. It's one of the foundational theories in advanced physics that I always wanted to learn, but you need to complete at least an undergraduate physics course to be able to even start to get a sense of it. So we made a show which had around 7 episodes in which we broke down the whole theory of relativity in simple everyday language, and we put it out there on YouTube. This was the first course that started to generate traction for us. We got a lot of positive feedback, but also a lot of constructive criticism around it, what users felt could be done to still improve it.
Just like in the YouTube comments?
Just in the YouTube comments. We had some reach outs, but majority of it was on the YouTube comments. We put on another show, which was, everybody was talking about LLMs and AI, and we produced a show on how these LLMs really work. So we got into mathematics of AI and LLMs, and that was the first video that truly, I would say, went viral, and we started to get more traction from there.
How big is the Turing team? Is it you and a couple of contract freelancers? Is there a co-founder? Has the team, how has the team expanded?
So we are a team of 7. It's me and my co-founder. The 2 of us are the only people who are doing this, I wouldn't say full-time, but close to full-time.
Sure.
And then we have a team of 5 freelancers who help us from primarily on the audio creation side and the video creation side. 1 person on marketing.
Got it. One of the reasons that I asked is I wanted to start talking a little bit about your app that you're building as you're launching this platform and building an audience on YouTube. And I'm also curious what the build process was like and how much of that was you, or were there coaches or any agencies or freelancers that you tapped into for that, or if the build was entirely in-house?
I was looking for a platform which made it easy for me to get started. One of my friends recommended Bubble. They had built a prototype of their own for an AR, VR audio, augmented reality platform that they were building for sports stadiums. And so that's how I first got introduced to Bubble. I wanted to build the app myself. I wanted something which is powerful enough or which is easy to get started with. It took me around 4 weeks, I would say, to get to a starting point. I first built a web app to test out and made it mobile compatible. This was around the time when Bubble also launched its native mobile editor. And so in the middle of last year, I used summer vacations as a time to make that switch where we launched, where we got ready with our native mobile app. We chose intentionally to not wrap our web app into native environments for performance purposes. And we are the now mobile first company. Over a period of time, we have ruthlessly prioritized on what are the content that we want to bring in. We shortened the content, but we also made the discovery easier. We covered a broader range of topics, and that's then set into how I designed the app.
At what point do you and your co-founder decide that the app is maybe not ready? I don't know if that's the right term at all for any entrepreneurship journey, but at what point do you decide that it's time to get the app out there and start getting real users on it?
Yeah, I don't think the app is anywhere close to being finished. I don't think we have mastered the art of producing this content either. It's a very much a journey in progress. It has come to a point where we are not frustrating the users, I would say it.
Sure.
When it was good enough that it's not frustrating to use, and I put it out there, and
that's a good benchmark. Yeah.
Yeah.
My experience in talking with so many founders such as yourself is you will discover things about your app that you didn't even know were there when real users start getting their hands on it. So I'm just curious what that process has been like.
So many instances. So one of the things we did was, once the Nobel Prizes in 2025 were announced, we really put our shows out there, which explained what was the discovery that won this prize and who are the people. So that is when the speed is of essence. We relied on AI text to speech to get it out there. But what we think is our hero product, our most important shows, that we very much relied on humans, speakers, to give voice to it, so that you capture the full complexity and ups and downs of the topic. It also, if I think about it, it also surprised me, one, how sometimes if people don't, like a product, users can be ruthless about it. But at the same time, if you find someone who truly believes in your mission, then they would go to great lengths to support you. I have had both. I have had listeners who have supported us from the start, being one of the first subscribers to our platform, giving us feedback, taking time to talk to us and understand. But at the same time, also being very direct and ruthless about it. So when you are going into starting something, you need to just make peace with it, that some people are going to absolutely love your products, but others are going to hate it as well. And you need to know which feedback to take, internalize, versus when it's better to ignore and basically move past it.
Does that fundamentally come down to just having like a really strong vision that you can gut check against, or is there like data or trusted sources? How do you navigate that?
I would say a couple of things. So we get negative comments all the time. There's tons of criticism that comes your way, and what I would do to filter it out is, one, I would say, is it a constructive criticism, or is it simply
trolling?
Trolling, exactly. It's impossible to act on each and every feedback as well. And for example, one of the choices we made for our content was to introduce a background music to make it soothing and easy to listen to break monotony. Otherwise, they're talking about facts after facts that for 15-20 minutes becomes tedious to listen to. But there are listeners there who complain, who don't like it all the time, and we ask ourselves, is this music supporting the core narrative, or is it becoming distracting? So you have to make that choice. I come from a background where perception was very valued at. When you're working with large corporate, with Fortune 500 companies, there is no margin of error, and everything that you do has to be 100% ready to go out there. As a strategy consultant, I would, before I present anything to clients, I had to be 200% sure. But that cannot work in entrepreneurship. You have to be okay with putting out a product where there are errors, where there are issues, and then you have to make a decision on which ones do you absolutely fix and which you can live with.
Just to reiterate, as we tie this into a bow, the premise of this show is that there's a new playbook out there for entrepreneurship. The common thread that I always hear is get it out there as soon as possible so that you can get real feedback from real users. And your strategy to do that was by building an audience, at least at first, on YouTube.
Yes.
So if there's somebody else out there who is listening to this and they want to build an audience for their business, for their platform, what would be your playbook for them for building an audience, let's say via YouTube, but in general as well?
When you start to seek out experiences from people who have done this before, a lot of what gets amplified are experiences where people did it really quickly, really well. And those exceptions are out there, but don't think that is the norm. I mean, for us, it took almost 15 to 20 videos before we finally found one, which we think helped us scale up, and YouTube started to promote our content. So it is hard work, and don't be demoralized. The second thing I would say is really invest time in finding the right people who can help you with. I was trying to do a lot by myself. And, when I was trying to grow my team, I found some people who are truly invaluable, but at the same time, I've also had experiences and we didn't invest some time in properly screening someone and they ended up being a drag on the team. So find who is the right person to collaborate for you. I feel that, the tools like Bubble, like Canva have really brought down the barriers for entry to creators out there, and it has both its pros and cons. You have to, if you're not tapping into these, you are, leaving a lot of value on the table. I personally believe we are not, far from a time when you would have a single person unicorn that, single person companies being able to scale up to 100 millions in revenues. The great unlock that has been the tools like Canva, tools like Bubble, is that how much you can achieve and how much you can do as a single person. You can have a full-time role, something that interests you, something that do. You don't have to let go of it to pursue your entrepreneurship dream. It's totally possible, and it's ultimately comes to ruthless prioritization. How much can you automate? How much help can you get from all that is out there? I'm able to do both of these things together because when I'm working on Turing, when I'm creating these shows, it just gives me so much energy that I think if I was doing something else, it may not have been the case. When I'm doing something that I'm passionate about, it just gives so much energy. Even if it is a topic that we don't end up putting out there, I felt like I am learning so much, and it's something that just makes me happy. To anyone, who wants to start something, please pick a topic that you are passionate about. As long as you're getting energy out of it, as long as you enjoy doing it, if you can, like spend a whole weekend just working on that thing, and at the end of it, you come out being happy and proud of yourself, then that's the right area to focus on.
Cool. I'd love to just run you through a quick rapid fire series of questions. So my first question, I'm especially curious because of your background versus your passion for science. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an astronaut. And this was the reason when an opportunity came in for me to work with one of Sweden's biggest space services companies, I could not say no. And I absolutely love my role. I absolutely love the people I work with. And that's why I want to do it in parallel to pursuing Turing. It's, those two passions of mine that I think can work very well together. So yes.
Absolutely. Best of both worlds. When you're sitting down to work on the app, what are 3 things that you need to have with you?
I would like to have a Diet Coke. It's my choice of caffeine to help me going. I would need a dark room because that helps me focus. It just puts what's important in front of me.
Sure.
And I would like some music to essentially drown out everything else in the background and help me focus.
Do you have a go-to style of music?
I like to go for instrumental.
Sure. Next question is kind of a hot take question. Mm-hmm. What is something that you think other entrepreneurs are not paying enough attention to?
It's what Jensen Huang had said very well a couple of months ago, is that AI will not replace human, but a human with AI would definitely replace a human without AI. And it amazes me that just how much you are able to accomplish if you tap into the full potential of artificial intelligence. I'm experiencing it firsthand. I would not be able to manage both my day-to-day role as well as my passion with Turing. It's only possible because we aggressively use AI to automate tasks, to do our research where we can. And yes, this is what I would urge everyone to really pay attention to.
Kind of a perfect segue into my next question. As AI helps us do more and more things, what is one skill that you think people still need to be good at?
I think the output of AI is only as good as the input that you give to it. When my kid grows up, I would hope that by that time we really have the core skill of prompt engineering being incorporated in the school curriculums, or everybody learning about it. We already see, AI-driven rounds being incorporated into the interview processes. Consulting firms like McKinsey, they are now doing interviews where you have to make AI your primary tool and solve a problem to see essentially how good you are at tapping into the power of this tool. I think the ability to think, ask right questions, and give the right directions to these tools is absolutely the skill that you need to do.
Last question. What is the most memorable feedback that you've ever received in your career? And it could be as part of, building Turing or, anytime before that.
Yeah. So the story here, there's a bit of background to it.
Please.
So I once worked with a manager who used to be a former U.S. military army major who served in Afghanistan. And he used to be really calm about every meeting, every task that he would go into when a lot of us would start to stress out. So one day I asked him about it, and he told me that he actually had a bullet which is just a few inches away from his heart. And it is so deep in that it cannot be taken out. It's like too risky to take it out by operation. So they had to leave it in because it was not lethal for him, but he had to now carry a certificate that there's a bullet inside him every time he goes to an airport because it always beeps for him. He said this, that when you start to stress out about things, remember that there's very few instances where if you don't do it right, that somebody's going to die. If you don't do it, if you fail tomorrow, it will be okay. Nobody's going to die. Sometimes it's okay to fail. That is something that I try to live by. I wouldn't say that it's so perfect for me. I do stress out all the time myself, but I think those words were very wise.
Yeah, no, that really resonates, and it's super valuable perspective, but it's hard to hold on to that unless I guess you're someone like him who has been through that situation where if it goes wrong, yes, it is a matter of life and death. So exactly. Wow. Yeah.
I guess as someone who had literally been in line of fire, that it's possible for him to see that, but not being in the situation, it's hard to implement in your life.
A very, very valuable reminder. Well, I think that actually covers everything that I wanted to make sure we got to in our conversation. To kind of close this up, is there any links or social handles that you want that you would like to plug for our audience? We'll also, of course, be able to put any links to you and your work and the Turing app in our show notes as well. But anything that you want to plug?
I would very much like to put the word out there about the Turing app. It's a free app that anybody can get started with, and we have hundreds of hours of entertaining science content from a huge variety of topics, including on one hand the core nuanced advanced concepts like the theory of relativity, genomics, LLMs, technology, and such. But then we also make entertaining content on breakthroughs, new developments, and such. So please go check out either our web app at www.theturingapp.com or our mobile apps on iOS and Android platforms, and we would love to hear your feedback.
Perfect. We'll put the links in the show notes. Is there a particular lesson or video that you particularly love that you'd want to drive people's attention to?
If I have to pick one, my personal favorite is the theory of relativity that I touched upon, and there are two aspects of it. So Einstein gave one theory of special relativity and a general relativity. And before I had this opportunity, I never recognized the genius of the man. But once I had the chance to understand what he said, it really puts you in perspective why Times Magazine named him the person of the century. And yes, why he was perhaps the greatest mind that ever lived to be able to conceptualize things like this. So please, check it out. Check that out.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll take a look. Cool. Well, Vi, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. This has been great.
Thanks, Abhinav, for having me. Thank you.
Huge thanks to Vi for coming on today. If you want to learn more about and from the Turing app, visit theturingapp.com or download their mobile app on Apple or Android today. Thank you everyone else for listening. We will catch you in the next episode.